please do those things.
Please do those
things.
Yeah.
And I'll try that again.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson, Richard James, and Chris Dale.
It's getting close, isn't it?
What is?
Breakaway Day.
Oh, I see. Gosh, yes. Well, I mean, on the moon back in 1999, on the 11th of September, I mean, there was all sorts of stuff going on.
13th September, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
I see. On the 11th,
they were there a few days before.
Of course they were.
They were worrying about, whatever this mysterious illness was and strange radiation readings and
I tell you what. I wish I'd done that. Like diary entries would be interesting, wouldn't it, for the period leading up to it?
Whose diary? Everyone's diary. Gorski's diary.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Yeah. Have we got a significant September 13th coming up? 50th anniversary, 40th or something? When was it?
2025 will be the 50th anniversary.
Maybe a diary from some of the characters leading up to Breakaway Day.
Ooh. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Enough of that, because there are people watching.
And listening.
Yes. So this is the Gerry Anderson Podcast, in case you didn't know. In case you've just kind of stumbled across us, which you might have done.
Yeah. That'd be strange. If you have, email us podcast@gerryanderson.com and say, I've just stumbled across you.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
You are Richard James Esquire.
Quite right. And you are Master Jamie Anderson, a
Correct.
PhD, in OBE,
MA, if you want to.
B&Q, I don't know. MA, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I had letters out of my name.
Yeah. Well, I don't use them.
I think I've got an acting diploma, if that helps.
Oh, amazing. What's that, like dip act or something?
I think, I don't know. I've got nothing to say. I mean, I didn't get a certificate or it's nothing.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Well, compared to the qualifications of our other third member,
The illustrious, the learned
Archduke
Christinand,
Ferdinand Randomiser the Third. Yes, him. Anyway, hi Chris.
Hello, Chris.
He's also here, and he'll be coming up later on with the randomiser, which is actually a device as well as the name of the segment, and also the thing that gives him his name, the randomizer. You see. It's quite clever how that's all interlinked. It's almost like we planned it.
Clever.
Anyway, using that device and our special guest this week, who you can tell us about in a moment, Chris will activate the randomiser, and that will pick a random episode of a random Gerry Anderson show, and then he will watch it and say things about it, and you can watch along with him on the YouTube channel or listen along on the podcast, or whatever.
It's great, isn't it? And the person pressing that button this week is it's none other than Anton Phillips. Dr. Bob Mathias from Space 1999. He can tell us all about Breakaway Day.
Amazing.
Isn't that fortuitous that we've got him along for the next couple of weeks, straddling September 13th?
It ain't fortuitous, Richard James. It's because you planned it, because you are very clever like that.
That's right. So I'm so looking forward to meeting Anton Phillips and hearing all about his life and career.
Yeah.
So much to tell us, such a long career full of interesting stuff.
It's, fantastic guest.
Yeah. We've also got Fab Facts.
Yes.
That's
now I'm
back again
excited.
for
I've
another
got a
week.
good feeling about Fab Facts today.
Have you?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Oh, how do you mean? What, tingling, or you just feel a bit itchy, or what is it?
Sort of warm pins and needles in my knees.
What have you done?
It might be arthritis. I don't know, but I've got a good feeling. I mean, it's random because I flipped through the book, and we'll get to that shortly. But what else is happening?
Well, the only thing that isn't random really is the news. That's not random, is it? Because that's kind of...
There's an element of it.
Yeah, I suppose so, but it's actual things that are kind of predictable.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Yeah. But, I mean, above and beyond all of that...
Most exciting of all...
The reason we're sat around this table...
Is...
We're
not doing that again.
Podsterons. Who've been in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.com to tell us their thoughts and ideas and reviews and what they think of life in general.
Life in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we put it all together in a little segment we like to call the Voice of the Podsterons.
Yes, it's very spooky and exciting.
Can't
wait.
Yeah, there you go. So that sounds about right for pod 274 of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Sounds like it's going to be jam-packed.
It's a doozy.
Oh, okay, well, let's hope that the Fab Fact is a jam-packed doozy.
Or a don't see, probably.
Ooh, well, we'll find out very shortly in this week's Fab Facts.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
As everyone knows by now,
yes,
I have a book of Fab Facts. It's a rather large book. So large, in fact, that you might want to use a synonym for a large book, but I can't think of one right now for some reason. Anyway, so in my large book of Fab Facts...
Yeah, a volume?
I don't really like that either. I've got literally hundreds of Fab Facts.
Must be.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And every week we find a different one.
Yes.
Unless we mistakenly repeat it, which I'm worried we might do at some point.
Could happen.
But let's hope that our memories prevent that from happening. But I'm going to flick through the book with my thumb.
Yes, there it is.
Crucial flicking thumb. Looks a bit dry, actually. And Richard's going to shout fab at a random point, which stops me flicking, and then I will read you out the fab fact from that page. Richard, are you ready with your fab?
Born ready.
Excellent. My thumb and the book are prepared. Here we go.
Fab!
Oh, Right, I slightly overflicked there, so I'm going to go back to where I actually stopped.
Oh.
Well, just a couple of pages escaped me after you said fab. What would you want? Accuracy or... No.
That's not what I come to expect.
Well, I'm here for accuracy. So.
All right, okay.
Now, you know how some things in life just don't make any sense, Richard.
I mean, look around
We're
you.
here, aren't we?
Look around you.
Yeah. Well, that's because life is complicated, full of incidents and events that just don't make sense and loose ends that are never, ever tied up.
That's true.
Well, that's life, isn't it?
It is.
But it doesn't make great television.
I didn't say it did.
No, I know, but someone might.
Sure.
Someone out there, one of you Podsterons said that. So please do spare a thought for the production team behind Space Precinct. Who is...
Okay,
I told you I had a good feeling.
Yeah.
The team behind Space Precinct, who in 1995 sat down to watch an episode called Graveyard.
All right.
Not heard of it? Well, that's unsurprising, because that's not how the episode was released several months later, and with very good reason.
Ooh, what reasons?
What I'm going to tell you.
I mean, I know anyway because I was there, but go on.
Okay, well, I'll tell you anyway.
Sure.
As the episode was approaching picture lock, meaning it was fully assembled but lacking sound and visual effects, it was noticed that Graveyard, as written by Michael Berlin and Eric Estrin, and directed by Piers Haggard, didn't make much sense.
Oops.
According to IMDb, the story concerns the arrival on Altor of a mysterious meteor fragment, heralding the start of strange events at an apartment block where residents are being terrorized into relocation.
Great effect from Steve Begg, that asteroid arriving as well. The universe kind of cracks apart to let it in.
He's good with that, isn't he?
Yeah.
Clever man. As Jane and Took look into the disappearance of an alien farmer, Brogan realises that something is going on that threatens all life on Altor.
What could it be?
An intriguing premise, I'm sure you'll all agree.
Yes.
The trouble was, there was no ending to the story.
Ah.
In the words of assistant editor Charlotte Serple,
Oh, yes.
a crisis meeting was held, including executive story consultant Chris Hubble, the director, the editor, and Dad, of course,
Yes.
to see what could be done. And what did they decide to do?
Chuck it away. Start again.
Well, the very thing that we sometimes wish we could do in life, in fact. They wrote a sequel to tie up the loose ends. So the standalone episode Graveyard became
Death Watch.
Death Watch Part 1, with a sequel very imaginatively titled
Yes.
Death Watch Part
2.
2, or Death Watch The Conclusion,
And
according
now,
to the opening
Death
credits.
Watch, the conclusion.
Yes, which was filmed some weeks later. Written by Arthur Sellers, it sought to explain just what the mysterious meteor was, while having Brogan kidnapped to help the even more mysterious MIA, or the Military Intelligence Agency,
Yes.
discover exactly what was going on. We'll leave it to you to judge if the episode succeeded in doing that, but in the light of the fact it was also charged with being the final episode of the series, it had a huge amount of work to do.
Absolutely.
Perhaps in light of all the mysteries that episode presented us with, it's appropriate that the IMDb listing for both episodes reads, "It looks like we don't have any synopsis for this title yet."
I think that's fair enough, isn't it?
It really is.
Ah, yes, I do remember that well, of course.
I mean, how does it get to the point of recording, filming a script when it's got no ending and it doesn't make any sense?
Quite bizarre, isn't
how
it?
What?
Yes, I know. How did that ever get through any kind of stage at all?
I mean,
Did no one say, excuse me?
I guess it's related to all the problems on the production, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, there were money problems and stuff just got passed through and just get on with it, get on with it. There must have been a sense of urgency going on.
Yes.
And we can't have any hold-ups.
Yes.
And then you end up having all sorts of hold-ups and problems.
Interesting, though. Story consultant, I think, Chris
Hubble, yeah.
Hubble? Yeah.
Hubble
One
Orin,
thing I always
Hubble telescope.
interesting about the because on Earth, of course, Orin is considered a Christian name, a first name.
Is it?
Well, Orin is, yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes, but
No.
in the show, Orin is his surname.
Okay, and so they went surname, first name to try and make it more alien.
Yeah, well, maybe, yes, yeah. And also, I think, had we gone to a second series, I think we would have seen more of the Military Intelligence Agency as well. I think they would have been back to cause problems for Precinct 88.
Yeah, but what a shame we never saw it.
What a shame we never saw it. Much like Graveyard, that didn't really have an ending.
No.
So Space Precinct doesn't really have an ending.
No, but maybe that's for the best.
Maybe
it leaves the future open, doesn't it?
It does. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like that, of course, because it was about Space Precinct, one of my favourite series ever.
Of course you'd like that. Yeah. Well, there we go. If you can think of any other Anderson episodes that have almost met a sticky end and then been rescued by some writing at the last minute. I mean, you've got the 30-minute episodes of Thunderbirds that ended up being extended to 50s.
Absolutely. Amazing.
Anything else you know of Podsterons? Email us podcast@gerryanderson.com. But for now, that brings us to the end of this week's Graveyard Fact! Graveyard!
I know, but I just love that phrase, crisis meeting. Charlotte and I have one of those every morning over breakfast.
I don't doubt it.
We don't even call it breakfast, we could just call it a crisis meeting. Yeah, that's right. More FAB Facts next week, of course. Now, talking of Space Precinct, shot in Pinewood at L&M stage, of course.
Yes.
Famously in 1994, 1995. Well,
yes.
a mere 18 years previous to that, our forthcoming podcast guest, Anton Phillips, was treading those very same corridors, sitting in those very same dressing rooms, waiting to be called to set in the very same studios, L&M block at Pinewood. That's amazing. I'm looking forward to talking to him about that. But before we get there, I suppose it's time to hand over to your alter ego.
Old Specky.
Is that what you're calling him?
I'm calling him that now, yeah.
Oh, can I call him that?
Please do.
Oh, Old Specky. I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay. Over to you, Old Specky.
Oh.
Hello, Ander fans. Jamie Anderson here once again, bringing you the freshest news from the vast universe of Gerry Anderson. Let's get straight into it. First on the docket, Breakaway Day. This coming Wednesday, the 13th of September, we will be commemorating that fateful day in 1999 when the moon was propelled out of Earth's orbit by a nuclear explosion. As True Space 1999 aficionados, we've got some delightful offerings lined up for you. We're talking a unique comic collection, some intriguing new collectibles, and the kick-off of a Kickstarter campaign focused entirely on that iconic eagle. And for the cherry on top, tune in at 7 PM UK time for a live stream featuring some very, very special guests. Trust me, you will not want to miss it. Turning to YouTube, we've embarked on a new journey chronicling Dad's illustrious life and career, starting right from the very beginning. Dive into these stories and immerse yourself in a rich tapestry of his legacy. There's a treasure trove of content waiting for you at youtube.com/GerryAndersonTV. Thunderbirds fans, here's something to brighten your day. As we ramp up towards Thunderbirds Day on the 30th of September, we're excited to unveil a limited edition set of Tracy Brothers portraits. And yes, the ever-graceful Lady Penelope hasn't been left out. These will go exclusively on sale on Thunderbirds Day, so mark those calendars and grab that gear. And before I sign off, a quick nudge to all you Space 1999 fans. We've proposed some rather thrilling t-shirt designs and we want to hear from you. Head over to our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook. Scroll back just a bit and cast your vote for your favourite. While we can't make any promises, your voice does matter, and who knows, your pick might just become a reality. And there you have it. That's another week of exciting happenings in the worlds of Anderson. Keep the spirit of adventure alive, stay curious, and as always, FAB. Until next week, I'll see you then. Back to Richard and Jamie in the studio. Isn't it amazing that every week...
Yes.
Old Specky's got something to say.
Don't call him that, because there's people watching. I mean, I wear glasses myself when I'm driving. I don't want to be called Old Specky.
Yeah, but
I know it's you to yourself. So
yes, that's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's sort of self-deprecating.
I don't know about that.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
sorry, I retract my previous comments.
Find something nicer to call him.
It'll take me the rest of the episode. I'll think of it by the end of this pod.
Now, you will never guess what our wonderful listeners and viewers that we call the Podsterons have been up to this week.
I'm pretty sure I will guess.
Oh, go on.
Well, they've been sending us in emails.
Oh, you knew.
And commenting on our YouTube channel and tweeting us and writing in the Podsterons Facebook group.
Yeah, all of that, yeah.
Amazing, eh?
Oh, well, that's rather taking the wind out of my sails.
I mean, do you want to pretend I didn't know?
Yeah, should we try it again?
Yeah, okay.
You'll never guess what the Podsterons have been up to.
Oh,
emailing us.
Oh, what?
Podcast
really?
GerryAnderson.com.
Gosh.
And to prove it, let's have a listen to the voice of the you-know-whats.
This is the voice of the Podsterons.
Yes, it's the voice of the Podsterons. They've been emailing us at podcast@GerryAnderson.com with their thoughts, comments, reviews, all kinds of stuff, really. Do you want to hear some emails?
I'd love to, yes, please.
When International Rescue was first formed, says Pen Quiller, Thunderbird 3 was designed to need a crew of 2. So, a 2-seater sofa was provided to convey the astronauts from the lounge to Thunderbird 3's launch bay. Right, you with me?
I
with
am.
Pen? Yep. However, occasionally a third person would come along, which made the sofa too crowded, so it was exchanged for a 3-seater. You may have noticed in Sunprobe that Alan still doesn't like sitting near the edge as the sofa descends, so swaps seats with Scott, but swaps back again when the sofa settled into its trolley to be conveyed to Thunderbird 3's silo. Notice that?
I hadn't noticed that, but I'm glad you pointed it out.
The Moxie was being built in Slough around the same time as the Stirling Road Industrial Unit, which Jeff used as a furniture store, was being demolished. So the hotel was able to pick up some furniture at a bargain price to furnish the rooms. And that explains how we have Jeff Trace's sofa in our podcast studio.
And that finally makes sense. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. It was really worrying me, that whole thing.
And you can see it and Chris Dale sitting upon it a little later on in the randomiser. P.S. Says Penn, I found the ideal compromise for my podcast enjoyment.
Oh, okay.
For the last couple of years, I've listened to the podcast on Mondays while doing my housework, and it always makes the dusting, etc., less boring.
Well, that's what we're here for, to make life slightly less boring.
Now, says Penn, I clean and polish along to the first hour while listening to Jamie, Richard, and your guests on my phone, then put the laptop on so I can watch the randomizer episode along with Chris while I do my ironing.
Yes, nice, perfect.
Isn't it?
Perfect.
So thanks, gents, for helping me get my household chores done.
Great pleasure.
Thing is, though, that's doing your ironing throughout the randomizer. What if it's like just a 10-minute, what if it's a 12-minute Full Feather Falls?
Well, not much randomizer ironing is going to be getting done, is it?
That's right, yeah. But if you've got a Space 1999 or something, you probably get a whole fortnight's worth.
Get through the backlog. Do the neighbours as well.
Yeah, good idea, yeah. Thanks, Penn, for that. Yeah. Nice to know that you're keeping up with the chores.
I've got a short one.
I had heard.
Yeah. Do you mind if I share it?
Now?
Yes.
Go on then.
It's from John Dredge of West Hampsteadshire.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
He says, hello, folks of Anderson World.
Oh, hi.
Do you have any idea what Gerry thought of the parodies of his work, such as Super Thunder Sting Car from Peter Cook and Dudley Moore? Best wishes, John.
Interesting. Featured on Nigel Planer's interview just a few weeks ago.
Can't escape it, can you?
No,
It always gets
right.
mentioned.
Ah, yeah. What did he think?
Well, I think he was always slightly upset when people mocked the shows. However, that did mean some kind of public awareness and level of reach.
Yep.
So I think he took the rough with the smooth.
Yeah.
And smiled sweetly and politely, and then in the back of his mind thought,
Curses.
you sods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shame, isn't it? Yeah, but that's understandable, I suppose, to see you. Well, it wasn't mocked as such. I don't know.
A little bit.
Lynn Beresford says, hi, Richard, Jamie and Chris. The husband and myself find we now alternate watching and listening to the podcast. Now we've got to see your fabulous faces instead of just hearing your voices. It's such a joy to see how much you actually enjoy what you do. It's called acting.
Well, speak for yourself.
It comes across in spades when you watch it on YouTube with the banter, laughter, and the teamwork and enthusiasm for everything Gerry Anderson.
Yes.
The more recent podcasts with Lee were amazing and inspiring to all future budding artists, and think even my Torchy girl can follow a few tips and advice from a seasoned genius like him as she designs her own anime characters.
Ah,
Not
lovely.
sure what Lee would feel about being described as seasoned.
He'd accept it.
Okay. The legacy can only go forward with the fans, cooperation, and enthusiasm in spreading the word and helping others to see how it is relevant today. I think the podcast will be pivotal in achieving this, continuing growth and interest and branching out in unexpected ways.
We would like to think so.
Here's to many, 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 many more podcasts and randomisers in the future from Lynn Beresford.
Well, there's no sign of stopping us right now, Lynn, so thanks.
Well, you say that. We are about halfway through the randomisers, aren't we? So there is a sign of stopping.
Yeah, in 5 years.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I've got one.
Oh, good.
From Willow.
Hello, Willow.
Hello, Willow.
Yeah.
Willow says, hello, awesome podcast hosty people.
No, that's us.
Yeah, that is us.
Cool.
I just thought I'd send a quick message to say how much I'm enjoying being able to watch the podcast as well as hear it. I don't always get time to watch, but when I do, it's so fun. That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've loved the guests you've had, but in response to the lovely Lee Sullivan being on and answering my question,
Oh, yes.
I unfortunately have had some bad news.
Oh, no.
My tattoo artist has retired. So one of you is going to have to break the news to Lee that he's going to have to learn to tattoo sharpish.
I mean, I wouldn't...
Because I need my John tattoo.
No. I wouldn't trust Lee with a sharp pin.
I wouldn't trust Lee with many things, to be honest. Talking of John, are we still sending in pictures of our undershelves? Yes, we are. Because I just had to rearrange mine and banish some of the collection to the loft because John needed more space.
Gosh.
No pun intended. Space, get it?
Of course, yes.
Apparently 2 shelves all to himself was simply not enough, and he needed 3. And then there's a sort of emoji.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a particular Anderson character that they love and adore that much? I want to see pics. Post a picture of your collection in the Podders Facebook group and tag me so I don't miss them. There you go. You heard Willow.
Lovely.
Anyway, that's my update. As with much of my life, it's John-centric. I'd apologise, but I wouldn't be me if it wasn't John-centric.
No, that's true.
Keep up the good work, chaps. Lots of love from Willow.
Oh, thanks, Willow.
Thanks, Willow. Lovely.
Interesting she's saying she has to jettison something to make room for her, John. But I'd like to know, if you had to jettison something to make room for something else, what would go from your Gerry Anderson collection? What would you look at and go, yeah, I'll put that in the loft?
I mean,
what would it be?
How do you feel about being in the loft for a bit?
What?
Right?
But that orange doll I gave you. You mean it's...
No, I don't have a loft.
No, I know. Steve says 3 questions you can spread out over your podcasts or print out and put on the wall as decoration. I'm going to ask them all now.
Oh, okay.
With your new studios on the top floor of the Mopsy, do you take the lift or slog it up the stairs? Asking for a friend.
We take the lift.
We do.
It's very exciting.
What's the physically scariest thing you've done that you can legally tell us about? Scariest thing.
I think it's when I went to the York maze in 2015, and I went up in that helicopter, and they'd taken the doors off.
Oh yeah.
So the BBC News guy could film out, and I just all I had was the hand strap wrapped around my wrist.
Yes.
And sort of bracing myself in the seat, and it was really scary as he was sort of tipping at 45 degrees to get the shot of the maze.
I think the scariest thing I've ever done was that morning I went to York and I took the doors off a helicopter and I just loosened the hand strap because I was terrified I was going to get caught.
Suddenly all makes sense.
Lastly, says Steve, would you rather be able to play an instrument, dance like nobody's watching, or paint or draw like Lee Sullivan? I'd love to draw like Lee Sullivan.
Yeah, I think me too.
Absolutely. Then I wouldn't have to pay so much for Lee Sullivan prints.
No.
Just do them myself.
No. Well,
yeah.
Start practicing because he says it's practice.
That's what they say, yes, exactly.
Makes perfect. 10,000 hours. Off you go.
Yeah. Talking of 10,000 hours, it seems like the Podsterons send us 10,000 emails.
Okay. I thought you were going to complain about my hosting.
We must be getting close, actually. Over 274 podcasts. I wonder how many emails we've read out. Probably not 10,000.
No.
Maybe 1,000.
Probably 5 a podcast, so maybe 1,000, yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Anyway, you can add to the number by emailing us at podcast@gerryanderson.com.
And we can add to the number by reading it.
There you go. It's all about adding to the numbers,
yes.
Isn't it? Excellent. There we go. Also, don't forget you can, subscribe and rate and review and copy the link and post it.
I mean, make it sound more exciting than that.
They know the drill.
You can do some stuff if you want. Nobody cares. That's nice.
No, but it's good. It's very good.
Anyway, I think it's time I stop talking and you talk to somebody else.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Is that all right?
Yes, please. Off you go then.
Bye.
This week's guest has come hot foot from Moonbase Alpha via General Hospital and The Saint. His theatre work includes forming the Carib Theatre Company, specialising in theatre and education and telling stories from a black perspective. His work as an actor, director and producer led him to be awarded the 2015 Edric Connors Trailblazer Award. But to help us celebrate Breakaway Day, he's here to tell us more about life as Space 1999's Dr. Bob Mathias and beyond. It's Anton Phillips! Anton, how lovely to see you around the table for the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Thanks for asking me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Welcome to Slough.
That's the first time I've heard that.
Not a million miles away from Pinewood Studios.
No, it isn't.
Where you spent your year on Space 1999 and beyond. We've had lots of illustrious guests on the podcast over the last 5 years, from John Coleshaw to Chris Packham to Samira Ahmed, who I think you've also spoken to. But it's always exciting to have someone on the show who was there during the filming of one of Gerry's series. Now, you've come a long way to get here, and I don't just mean the trouble that you had with the tubes this morning.
Yes, I got to my train station and the railings were across the front of it, and rail replacement bus service was which then throws you into London traffic for a start.
Yeah, yes.
That's having had to wait 10, 15 minutes for the bus to arrive.
Well, Thank you for persevering.
And so on. Yeah.
You made it. But like I say, a journey it's been from your childhood in Jamaica via high school in Washington, D.C.,
That's
I think.
right, yes.
And then to the UK. So looking back, does it ever seem like an unlikely journey?
Well, it really is very weird because when you grow up in Jamaica, especially if you're sort of a middle-class person in Jamaica, you're expected to go into one of the professions. You're expected to become a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant or into the civil service.
Yeah.
But when I said, I want to be an actor, people said, that's nice, but what do you really want to do?
Are they still saying that now?
I think they probably are still saying that now. Except I think some of us who've been into the profession and have done reasonably well and are kind of role models back in Jamaica has opened up the door to the possibilities that other people are saying, oh, well,
Wonderful.
It's not as closed as I thought it was, or people lead me to believe.
Absolutely. But so who opened the door for you? Who are your role models, or didn't you have them?
Well, I didn't really have any. I left Jamaica and went to school in America. I went to high school in D.C., as you said, and then went to the RCA radio school in New York and did a broadcasting course. I went back to Jamaica and did a bit of broadcasting there and some radio plays and so on. But I'd always belonged to some kind of amateur theatre group.
Right.
So, in fact, I think I actually formed a group in Jamaica of my own.
Great.
And then decided that really none of my ambitions, whatever they were going to be fulfilled in Jamaica. So I went back to America. Unfortunately, the Vietnam War was raging at the time, and the American government were gently recruiting.
Right. Yes.
Lots of young men of my age, and I
see.
thought, well, you know what? I have nothing against the Vietnamese.
Sure.
So I'm leaving.
Right.
So I left and came to the UK, to Britain.
Now, what was your ambition, or what were perhaps your parents' ambitions for you at that early stage in Jamaica?
At that point, they didn't really care, as long as I did something.
Sure.
Because I seemed to be quite aimless at the time and so on. So, they'd be quite happy for me to go to university and study anything, as long as I did something.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's while I was here, because I came over here with the idea that I just toured around Europe for a while. But I came to England, and England struck me as being so different to the American experience that I had, and obviously the Jamaican experience.
Right.
That it really engaged my interest quite a lot. Yeah. We're talking about the days when the Beatles and the Stones were... And that whole change. I don't know if people, generations after that, realize what a sea change
really
went through Britain at that time.
And it was tangible, was it? You could sense
absolutely,
it.
Absolutely, yes. And people were making a particular effort just to break with the traditional past. Yeah, that's when the teenager emerged in Britain. Before that, they were just young people. They weren't called teenagers.
Sure.
This is a strange idea which came over from America. Yeah. And this sense of freedom kind of broke loose. So I arrived and there were young men walking down the street wearing bright red military tunics from the 19th century, with very long hair and dark, and long hair. In America, if you didn't have a crew cut, you're considered a deviant.
Absolutely, yes, quite right. Yeah, interesting. I mean, and also, I suppose, from our point of view, also pushing the boundaries at the time was Gerry Anderson, who was forging ahead with his sort of super marination process.
That's
the
right.
puppets
That's
and stuff.
right.
Now, we're going to play a very quick game with you, Anton, that we play with all our guests. We're going to show you some very quick clips from the opening titles of every one of Gerry's series, and we want to see just how many you can spot. Wow. Okay, you ready for this?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. So, early days to begin with.
This looks like, is this Stingray is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
This is, I can't remember the names. I recognize them. I'm not doing really well here.
It's all right. It's difficult to keep up. Now, you may recognize that one.
Well, I thought we were just doing the first 5. Thunderbirds, yes.
Yes, that's it.
Is that Stingray, I guess, is it?
Captain Scarlet.
I forgot about him
That's
altogether.
all right.
And this is... I don't know that one.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Now we're moving into live action.
These are really quick.
They're very quick.
That one I recognise.
Of course you do. I'll give you that one.
And this is Thunderbirds.
Oh, no, we've had Thunderbirds already.
Oh, you're not doubling them up. Wow.
Almost
16,
there.
20.
Into the 90s now. Very, very quick. Last couple.
Right across the universe.
Okay. There we go. Well,
Not very good.
very difficult. Very, very difficult.
good.
Just a bit of fun.
It's amazing because some of those go back quite a few years, and
Sure.
yeah, and even if you recognise it, what was the title of that again?
Yes, absolutely. A lot
And
of
then
it's kind
there's some sort of similarities with some of the animation ones. aren't
yeah,
there, as
yeah.
well?
All buried away in there, but as sort of a jumble, isn't it? That's the
Yes,
thing.
and they fly by pretty quickly. you know.
I know, we're not very fair. I know. It's just a bit of fun. It's nothing serious at all. But
At the end of your series, you should see who the winner is, who spotted the most of them in the given time.
funny you should say that.
Funny. Okay.
So we have two for you, Anton. There you are in your Thunderbirds outfit. So they're all ranged across the front of the table here. I think the winner at the moment is Lee Sullivan, who's a comics illustrator who got 18.
18.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive.
It's very impressive. But there we are. Not bad at all. Not bad at all.
Well, it's better than 1 and 0.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you were always bound to get one, weren't you?
Yes.
So, I mean, were you watching television as a young child? Did you have a TV in the family?
There wasn't television in Jamaica.
Right. When did it come to Jamaica?
Well, I was in America when I came to Jamaica. I'm pretty sure. No, the first television I saw was when I arrived in Miami.
Yeah.
I took a plane from Jamaica to Miami as a 13-year-old, I think.
Yeah. On your own?
On my own,
Right.
yes. Because my parents had by then gone to the States.
I see.
So I was going up to join them and stopped off in Miami. And in the airport, there's a television, and it was showing a Roy Rogers.
Great.
Not a film, because it was a television series, and
I
it was
see.
an episode of that. And that was the first television I ever saw.
And it obviously left a mark. You can
Yes.
remember that. Yeah. Wow.
Well, you've been reading about television, and you've seen it in films and everything else.
Yeah.
It's like roller coasters. I never saw a roller coaster until I went to America. And these...
Yeah. I remember having my first avocado when I was 24. Things like that.
Yeah.
So, no television. Almost impossible to believe for a lot of our viewers, I'm sure, and listeners.
yes.
So, what did you spend your time doing as a young
Well,
child?
radio was a big part of it, and the World Service. BBC World Service was... Because they broadcast... that famous detective show, the name escapes me at the moment. I think Meg Ray.
Meg Ray, yes.
I think that was a radio broadcast.
Okay.
And various other drama productions,
Right.
and the news, and
Yeah.
different kind of calling the Caribbean or calling the West Indies.
I
some
see.
special shows direct. Yeah, so and then there's local radio as well.
Uh-huh.
So radio was that, but otherwise you're outside.
Yeah, of
making
course.
your own entertainment.
Of
and
course, yeah.
meeting friends and going off and doing things.
Great. Now it's time to have a look at your first Anderson memory, which of course is something very personal to you.
Okay.
So we'll have a look at this and have a chat about it afterwards. Okay.
I can make it.
Good, Captain.
Check over, please. This is main mission. All sections report.
Security section. We have audio contact. Radio systems go.
Service section. Lost all power. Operating on emergency systems.
Medical section, Paul. Explosive decompression in 2 compartments. Areas sealed off. No leaks. Sufficiently operational to accept casualties.
There we go. So,
Oh, he was so young.
so we're fast forwarding a little bit, I know, to your first day, I think, on Space 1999.
Yes,
Is that
yes.
right? That scene?
And I just listened to that line. I thought, God, I said that, and sounded as if I knew what I was talking about. What's more,
How does it feel watching yourself on
it's
screen?
really weird because how many years am I looking back
Yeah,
here?
40 years or so, isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah. Yeah. And how did that come to you? I guess you auditioned for it. Your agent put you up for it.
Oh, no. in those days, theatre, there's a kind of explosion in fringe theatre.
Yeah.
So you could go to any pub almost, or any telephone box, or almost anything, and see a play. And I was in a play at the King's Head Theatre at lunchtime, a lunchtime play.
Yeah.
And I was in there with another actor who was one of the blue-eyed boys of the BBC. Had been in some major series and so on, who was also a friend of mine, actually. And Michael Barnes, a casting director from Space, came to see him. And there we were in this really weird play. Nobody knew what the play was about, including the director, or if the director knew what it was about, he wasn't telling us. But we just got on and did it and had a great time. And afterwards, Michael Barnes came up to me and introduced himself, and said, he'd love me to come and meet Sylvia Anderson at Pinewood Studios for this series they're doing. And I thought, sure.
Yeah,
yes.
Sounds okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I think either the next day or the day after, I made my way to Pinewood Studios. Met him. He introduced me to Sylvia. Who greeted me very warmly, and as was always the case with her. She was just such a terrific person to have on that set, on that sound studio. Yeah. And they said, okay, come in. They'd want me to do it. So I had a costume fitting and so on, and then subsequently went in and did that first episode there.
Now, what was that? It sounds like such a big step for an actor to go from appearing at the King's Head, perfectly decent venue, nothing wrong with that at all, to be cast in 24 episodes, I think you did in that first year? Well, did it feel like a big deal?
Well, at the beginning, I was just cast to do the one. Just that one.
Right.
And then the director was Lee Katzen. The next day, apparently, they saw the rushes, liked what they saw, and then invited me to do the rest.
I see.
It was also, funny because for that shot, for that scene, as we were standing by before he shouted action, I started doing some heavy breathing as if, there's all hell breaking loose around and everything else. So I was standing up there and the wings building up, and I saw him looking at him, thinking, what have we got here?
now that, if you don't mind me saying, that's very much a theatre actor's response, isn't it?
Quite possibly.
Did you take those skills purposefully into your TV acting, or did it feel like a different beast entirely?
Well, the funny thing is, when you go to drama school in Britain, they teach you to act in theatre, certainly at that time. They teach you, certainly not the one I went to, nothing at all about film or television or studio. So it was a brand new thing. The very first telly I ever did, I pitched up on the set, having got the part, and knew my lines and everything. And this is on the deck of a ship.
Yes.
Warship. And the director said, okay, let's go for that first shot. There's your mark. And I was going, what? Aren't we going to talk about character, backstory? What's my relationship with the theatrical approach? And no, we'll do a rehearsal. I thought, we'll rehearse for the camera.
Yes, a rehearsal for the camera. Now, I think that would surprise a lot of people watching, that in the world of TV, you get very little rehearsal at all. You might get a chat with the director if you're lucky, but you're really expected to turn up, say the lines.
Yeah, with a character in your pocket and and move on. And certainly in terms of asking the director about character motivation and so on, he isn't interested. He just wants to know, is this shot set up right?
It.
And so the answer to the question is, it was a big learning experience. I'd never been, because even that television, which might have been the one and only one I did before Space 1999. I'd never been on a soundstage.
Sure.
So I didn't know my way around it.
And at Pinewood, of all places.
And Pinewood.
What did that mean to you? Were you familiar with its history? And
of course, yes. I'd seen all those, because the Hammer films were shot there, weren't they?
I think they were at Bray, I think.
Were they at Bray? Yes.
But the Bond movies and Carry On films, of course.
Yes, and the great thing, of course, is hanging around those Pinewood you see people, the Michael Caines and the Sidney Poitiers coming in, and people like this, and you go,
extraordinary.
Wow. But you don't want to go up to them because now you're cool, right? I'm not going
So try to take it in your stride.
Yes.
So can you remember your actual first moment on set? Did you meet on that first day the likes of Martin Landau, Barbara Bain, or was it just the people you were involved with in the scene?
Because your call is 7:15 in the morning or something like that, and you're going to makeup and costumes and everything else, and then you might be needed until 10 o'clock. So you use the chance to go on the set, meet people, and you are introduced around as well. And it might even have been Sylvia taking me around, saying, this is Martin and so on. I remember when Martin heard my character name, he was really quite startled. He said, "What are you called?" I said, "Bob Mathias." He said, No, we can't have a character called Bob Mathias because there's an Olympian, a famous Olympian named Bob Mathias.
Really?
Yeah. And he said, "No, that name's from this." And he left the stage and obviously went and spoke with I don't know, Gerry or somebody to see if they could get a name change, but they didn't.
No, plainly
so
not.
There I was, yes.
Now, coming from I suppose a theatre background to begin with, I know you're subsequently very experienced in TV as well, but theatre is generally considered to be a company feel. Did you feel that on set as well for Space?
Well, on this set, certainly you did. Even though, I mean, in theatre, you tend to... Theatre is also not that company feel that you... But it's a much smaller geographical area that you usually cover. Mm-hmm. Because the soundstage at Pinewood Studio, you could park Concorde in it. Or a 747 or something. It's huge and big sets and different... And then sometimes two sound stages in operation. Yeah. With then the administrative offices and changing rooms and wardrobes and so on in the front. So that closeness physically doesn't happen. Yeah. But somehow... that whole group of people seemed to coalesce really quite well. And everyone, I've been on sets where, you walk on and the regulars, you're there as a guest artist, and the regulars, they don't even look in your direction, much less come over and say hi, welcome, and so on. Which has really shocked me at times. I mean, that doesn't always happen, but it certainly does happen, where you walk and no one takes the slight bit of interest in you.
Yeah, particularly if they know you're a day player, you're only there for one scene.
Yeah. Whereas I don't think that was ever the case on Space 1999. Certainly not in the year one, anyway.
Yeah, great. Now, we have given the opportunity to our viewers and listeners to send in some questions for you, Anton, which are placed in this rather fetching Space 1999 lunchbox, of course, in your honour. So I wonder if you could just reach in there and just take a question.
This one.
And let's see what they've got to say.
This is from Tabitha Hoop. Why do you believe shows like Space 1999 have such longevity and still manage to draw in younger fans? I haven't the faintest idea.
Because they do, Do you see that yourself? I know you go to conventions often.
Yes, I've been to conventions, and the most amazing thing to me about it is that there are people there who weren't even born when Space 1999 was made. Yeah. And they're there, and they're in costume, and they're really enthusiastic fans. Yeah. And, people will come up to me and say, gosh, if it wasn't for Space 1999, I wouldn't have done a science degree, or I wouldn't have gone into medicine, or things like that. People do say that. And looking back at the shows, I think, well, let's have a look back. And even then, I find it difficult to connect with this show, which was made however many years ago, with today.
Right, really?
Yeah, which would encourage them, because the making of science fiction these days, sci-fi films, has changed in tone so much. Yeah. If you take a film like Aliens, for instance, the ship, it's creaky, the guys are wearing sweaty work clothes, they're arguing, it's a working environment. Yeah, it's not pristine and clean cut and everything else like space is.
Yes.
So that shift in presentation and production values and so on, I'd have thought would make Space 1999 look a little bit dated.
No, well, you see, that's interesting because I grew up watching Space 1999, which is why it's such a thrill to have you here today. To me, it looked like the future. All these grimier, grittier sci-fi films that we watched, it looked like today, but a few years hence. Right. Space 1999 to me looked like the future. Clean, white, bright, and with that a kind of sense of optimism, although you know the Alphans went through some terrible things. Just that idea of progression and hopefulness seemed to me to be symbolised by the design, the brightness. That's what attracted me.
And I suppose also there's a kind of step away from the reality of our current situation here as well, which is at the moment so depressing anyway.
Quite right, yes.
You step into that and there's a world which is functioning. I mean, they've got their problems and so on.
Yeah, but everything works.
But they make it work.
That's right.
So maybe that's it.
Yeah. Take another question.
Let's question.
See, who else has got in touch? That's it.
This is from Alex Pass.
Oh, yes.
Space 1999 has been enjoying recent repeat broadcasts in the UK. Have you been tempted to take a look? Well, the recent ones have been mainly Series 2, I think.
Right.
And yes, I've watched one or two of them. Not all of them by any means. And fortunately, every time I've dipped into it, it's an episode which I'd never seen before.
Okay. Yes.
So the last one, I might even have been last week. Maybe knowing that I was coming here, I thought, there it is, let me have a look.
And how does it strike you?
Ooh. We're entering into Series 1 / Series 2 competition. I'm not impressed with Series 2, to be perfectly honest with you. I think the scale of the whole thing was reduced so much.
Yeah.
It lost that sense of space and being on the moon, and you're in this little closet, main mission control.
Yes.
And then the monster which appeared in this thing. There are two monsters which appeared in it. There are the aliens which are messing things up on Alpha, and then what's her name? Who changes?
Maya.
Catherine
Schell.
Yes.
Yes.
She changes into another monster to counter them, and so on.
Yeah, a definite shift in tone for sure.
Shift in tone, but they were such rubbish monsters. I mean, I suppose, in the days when we didn't have CG. And all of that, where you can do such amazing things with monsters now and so on. Now, those monsters, some of them look like cardboard boxes which had lots of...
They pretty much were, I should imagine.
Bits of blankets stuck to them.
Exactly.
Hanging down.
Cheap, though, you see, cheap. Take one last question, Anton, if you would.
But that's the interesting thing, because there wasn't anything about Series 1 which looked cheap.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And here we have a question from Ian Stevens. Are you aware that the shows are still popular today? And does that surprise you? On a personal note, Space 1999 and UFO have been so helpful, getting me through the personal issues I've had by giving me much-needed break from reality. Well, that sort of hinges on what we're speaking.
That's right.
The conversation we just had.
Yeah. What's it like to be part of something that has a real legacy that's sort of beyond your control? I mean, it's going to outlive you, isn't it?
It is, yes.
How does that feel?
I feel as already has done. Well, it's one of the interesting things is when I meet people, and eventually it comes out, because I don't meet people and say, I was in Space 19.
Sure.
But it might come out at some stage.
Yeah.
And they sort of look at me in shock to think, wow, probably they're thinking, I thought all you guys were dead. But just recently I met up with Clifton.
Yes.
Clifton Jones.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I know that this woman who would love to meet you. Is it all right if I tell her to come along to the pub that we meet up and have a drink. And I said, yes, sure. So she came along, and this was a woman in her 40s, I guess. And she was so pleased to meet me. This was a black woman.
Yeah.
And she said, that you and Clifton, when she was growing up, were the only things that they had to watch on television which promoted a positive image of black people. We weren't playing janitors or pimps or gangsters or anything like that. There was this computer expert and there was a doctor. And, they used to run downstairs to watch when we were on. And she just really wanted to meet me and thank me.
Amazing.
For that experience of her youth.
Amazing. And I know that's an area you went on to explore in your theatre work, which we'll talk later about, bringing black stories to the screen and to the stage as well. Right,
absolutely, yes.
But before we get there, I'm going to take you right back to the beginning. I think this is from 1973. You've mentioned it already. It's an episode of Warship in which you featured, and the episode title is Sub Smash. Have a look at this.
She's only up there. About 100 yards away. How long does it take to run 100 yards? You watched the Olympics, did you?
9.25 seconds.
Oh, any marvellous familiarisation trick.
Where's your sense of humour, Pommy? It's now we need it. Bloody cold.
Well, a few minutes ago you were too bloody hot. I could put that on. There's dozens up there. You could put one on. We could be out of here long hero in 5 minutes.
You told us to wait.
Yeah.
And what about him? Do we leave him behind? And do you know how to use that thing? Because I don't.
Yeah, but it's all in here.
Yeah, and something goes wrong. We flood this compartment. They'll never get up.
Yeah, well, the way the water came here, there's a hole 2 yards wide. And here I ain't going to patch that with a metal plate.
Oh, the water would have come in quicker.
Now, listen, I know the score. There could be every shit in the med come to help us. But I can't do nothing. No, he knows that. But he's pig-headed. He'll leave it to the last minute, and then we'll all get up in an orderly manner.
A very committed and focused performance, I think.
Well, I'd like to think all my performances are like that.
And indeed they are.
Yes.
But this was your first TV.
That was my very first TV, done on location, as I said, which was, the Royal Navy had put one of their frigates at our disposal.
Yeah.
And so it was filmed down in Portsmouth, in the naval yard in Portsmouth, and then we went sailing around the harbour. In fact, for that episode, the weather was so bad, because normally we'd have gone out to sea,
yes,
as I understand it. But the weather was so bad, we could only sail around in the harbour for the shots.
Wow.
And we were supposed to be in Gibraltar, I think.
Right.
So, sleeves rolled up, and
yes.
Except it's January in Portsmouth, in bad weather.
Amazing.
There are times when, all that was filmed in studio. That was filmed in a tank in Ealing.
Right. A nice, tight little scene. In a way, very theatrical. It's a nice little two-hander, isn't it?
Well, the setup is that we're cut off from the rest of the sub.
Yes.
And this other sailor, he wants to use the escape pod.
Yeah.
But has no idea how to use it.
Yeah.
And I'm following orders. They say, stay where you are, stay calm.
Yeah.
Help is on its way. So it's a conflict between them. So that, once we're in the sub, we're cut off in this, because the sub hits an old World War II mine.
Right.
And is disabled.
Right.
And so the... for that, in fact, it's a memorable scene, because, as I said, we're in a tank in Ealing, dressed up to look like the inside of a submarine. And standing up there is a guy with a huge fire hose blasting us with water to simulate the leak.
Amazing.
And we do the whole scene up to our knees in water, for like 2 or 3 days, whatever long it took to film that.
How incredible. So that was actually broadcast on the 19th of July, so just a little over 50 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. Extraordinary, isn't it? Now, so your first TV, but did you have a sense of momentum, or have you never had that sense? Because I know as an actor, it's hustling a lot of times.
Yes.
But did you feel a sense of momentum getting your first TV job? And
well, you see, I was very fortunate, I think. The drama school I went to, it shows you the changing times, basically. The drama school I went to would only take 2 non-white students for any annual intake, for the year intake. 1 black girl, 1 black boy.
Right.
And the reasoning for that was that there wasn't any work out there, so there's no point training up a whole bunch of us and sending them out into a period of constant unemployment.
So rather than trying to drive change by having more black students...
They maintained the status, yes. But when I got out of drama school, after I got my first job, which I had to wait probably a couple of months before I got my first job, which was up in the Belgrade Theatre in Coventry.
Yeah.
Once that happened, I mean, then jobs for me rolled in.
Yeah.
Dovetailed. I mean, sometimes I was doing a telly and a stage play, or 2 tellies. And I was thinking, I mean, I have colleagues, from the Caribbean, from Africa, who are also actors, who were having a hard time getting work. And I was, I've just come into the business, and I'm getting work left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, what's what are they complaining about? It's okay. But it was okay for me. I mean, I think I was lucky.
It's tempting to think it's always like that, isn't it? That's the thing, when work is coming thick and fast.
Yeah. So, going on to this, and the other... Curiously, though, almost every telly which I ever did, probably except for that first one, I played a doctor.
Right. There you go.
I played a number of doctors.
Yeah, fun, isn't it?
And every time I got a doctor's part, I go and see my own physician and say, well, this patient is suffering from such and such. How would you as a doctor and get some notes from that?
Great. Now, that sound, Anton, means it's time for Quick Fire 5. Now, I'm going to ask you 5 quick fire questions. No right or wrong answer, but you need to pick either of the answers I give you. Are you ready for these?
Yes.
Now, what would interest you more? Diving to the sea depths as in Warship, or exploring strange new worlds aboard Moonbase Alpha?
Oh, the latter, I think.
Oh, really? Space?
Yes, absolutely.
Pick a holiday. Beneath the swaying palms of Thunderbird's Tracy Island, or the English countryside of Gerry's series The Secret
You don't need to go any
Service?
further. The seaside.
Of course, it has to be. A year working at Pinewood, or a year working on stage?
Ooh. Stage.
Really? Great. You're on the moon as it blasts away, but what would you take? The complete works of Shakespeare, or a month's worth of meals from your favourite restaurant?
Shakespeare, I think.
And finally, you have to choose a colour from the Dulux paint range and become a Spectrum agent from Captain Scarlet. So, are you Captain Kiwi Crush or Lieutenant Mint Macaroon?
Ooh, I'm not sure what those two are, but the Kiwi Crush sounds good.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's your Quick Fire 5, Anton. Now, thanks so much for joining us this week. I hope you can join us again next week when we'll be talking more about your career, but your early TV career as well, and then moving on to your important work with Carib Theatre Company as well.
Look forward to it.
In the meantime, is there anywhere we can find you? Do you do social media at all where any of our viewers or listeners can get in touch?
Not really. I mean, I am on Facebook, but and I think I'm on LinkedIn. But nothing else.
Okay, great. Well, we're very lucky to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Anton Phillips, everyone. Anton Phillips.
Amazing. How perfect.
Perfect for Breakaway Day.
Yeah, and such a nice man.
Such a lovely man, full of stories, full of the joy of life and full of the joy for his career as well. What a fascinating career.
Quite right too. And I'm sure lots of Podsterons will be now having heard half the story.
Absolutely. Only half the story.
Yeah.
Second half next week.
That's how it goes.
Anton will be joining me again in that very chair. We'll be after Breakaway Day by then, so we'll be safe.
That's right. Well, he won't be.
No, true.
Yeah. Amazing.
Other guests coming up. I think we've got Genevieve Gaunt coming soon.
Have we?
I think so, to talk about,
Thunderbirds. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
And many more.
Many, many more.
Haven't we got, in a few months' time, weeks' time, we've got the editorial lead for ITVX as well.
Yes, we
Craig Morris,
have.
lovely Craig.
Absolutely right.
Who's basically responsible for so many Anderson shows being on BritBox and ITVX because he's such a fan. And
Brilliant.
he's a very lovely man as well. So what a great variety we've got.
So much to look forward to. So do keep tuning in if you want to see your favourite guest on the Gerry Anderson podcast. Maybe let us know who you'd like to see. It is tricky getting hold of people. A lot of people have sent the same names, and I quite understand that. We do reach out via a variety of ways, emails on Facebook and even on Twitter. And of course, not everyone gets back to us. Not everyone sees those messages.
No.
And if they do, perhaps they aren't even interested, and that's fair enough.
But most of the time, once they do see the message, the thing that really turns them on to coming along and being interviewed by you is the fact they get to come to Slough.
And play Cute Mutant Recruit.
Oh, you're still doing that, are you? Yeah, good. Oh, good. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. Now, over on Facebook, our Podsterons have been posting all sorts of stuff. Marcus Harris writes, I've never been much of a fan of remakes, reboots, or retelling of past TV shows or movies, but occasionally I wonder what a live-action remake of our favourite shows would look like. I'm not counting that movie, lol, says Marcus.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
If they made a live-action Thunderbirds, who would you have play the Tracy brothers, Jeff, Brains et al.? To which Willow Landon Smith, who we already mentioned, replies, I've talked about this at length. I'd want Hugh Jackman as Jeff, Hayley Atwell as Penelope, and Peter Capaldi as Parker. Then for the boys, Sebastian Stan as Scott, Zac Efron as Virgil, Timothy Chalamet as Gordon, Tom Holland as Alan, and last but never least, Lucas Till as John.
Well, then there you go. That's fully cast.
I mean, lots of names there. I don't even know because I'm of that age, you see.
Yeah, just too old now.
Young actors. I don't know any of them. It's true. Funny, isn't it? But yes, it's always a topic of conversation, isn't it? Who would star in a live-action remake of your favourite Gerry Anderson series? Yeah.
Who would play Dick Spanner in a live-action Dick Spanner remake?
Well, I've got the chin.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, well,
I'm very available.
We know we've got live-action Mike Mercury all sewn up right here.
You're right, yeah.
Would you like me to read some more Facebook comments?
Yeah, sure.
Tabitha Hoop, back again. It's very Tabitha Hoopy recently, isn't it?
We like it.
What details do you appreciate about the Supermarination shows that you believe go largely unnoticed or underappreciated?
Yes.
She says.
Right.
To which Duncan Wilson replied, weathering.
Weathering.
It's amazing how a bit of pretend muck, rust and age makes the world of Anderson shows seem so grounded and real. Yeah. That's the reason I don't shower.
Right.
Mark Perkins says, the acting.
Ah.
I never refer to it as voice acting, as that somehow seems to diminish it in some people's eyes. A scene like Thunderbird 2 crash landing at the start of Terror in New York City was brilliantly acted by Shane and David. Agreed. Yeah, the voice acting is good. I'm going to call it voice acting because it is that.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that downplays it.
Sure.
And Ian Stevens says, for me, it's how alive the world seemed to be. For example, Thunderbird's Day of Disaster, the MSV being transported through the city towards the bridge, and in the background there are vehicles moving along an elevated bridge. You always saw vehicles moving around, which made the world seem so alive.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It is all about bringing that world to life in the background, isn't it? Yes, I think I was having that conversation with Chris Dale when I was invited, or rather forced myself upon him for the randomizer when we watched Predator and Prey in Space Precinct, and we saw Orion in the background. And I said I always rather enjoyed being in the background of a shot, even though I wasn't used, because it kind of gave you the idea that Orion was living a life while the main action was going on. Lou Hirsch hated it, of course.
Of course he did.
In fact, there's one scene where you can literally just see him sitting like that, with his mask on.
Oh, grumpy.
And I'm being all animated and fun. Harry Blythe says, just watching the excellent upgraded Space Precinct, there we go, on ITVX.
Brilliant.
It's really grown on me over the years, but it's certainly an odd beast. Equal measures of Blade Runner, The Muppets, and the kind of milk-fed American family wholesomeness of Little House on the Prairie or The Waltons.
Wow.
I can see that, yes, with the Brogan household.
Yeah.
And the Muppets, yeah, it's a few sort of Muppet-like creatures, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not sure I quite get the Little House on the Prairie or Waltons vibe. Space Waltons.
Night, Brogan.
Yeah, strange.
Nat. Yeah. Oh, and finally, talking of guests.
Yeah?
Read that one out from Earl Black.
Oh, Earl Black says, it's been so long.
Yeah, don't read it out like that.
Sorry. It's been so long since we've had the ultra-brilliant Terry Adlam on the show. Is it possible that we could please have him again soon?
Yeah.
Terry Christmas, anyone?
Yeah, I think I should get in touch with Chris and his dear friend Terry for Terry Christmas. Obviously, I was thinking of Christmas. That's what it is.
Of course, yeah.
Because it would be great to have him around the table, wouldn't it, over Christmas?
I think so, yes.
So I know he's just working just over the road there. So
yeah, he is literally just round the corner.
He'd come in his lunch hour, couldn't he?
Perfect, done.
Right, I'll get on to that. Thanks, Earl. Thanks for the thought.
Cheers, Earl.
Yeah, all for now, but do head on over to facebook.com/groups/podsterons, answer a few questions, and we'll let you in and you can join in the fun.
Great.
Yeah,
Do
easy
it.
as that.
Love
Yeah,
it.
That's right. Love it. Talking of things that other people love.
That you don't?
No, I
Just
love
other
it too.
people?
No, I love it too.
Yeah, it's getting a bit awkward, isn't it?
No, it's not awkward
He's
at
only
all.
there, you know.
I mean, considering you called him, what was it, about last week?
Don't try and throw me under the bus. This is all about you now.
I can't remember what you called it. Something ears, wasn't it? Or,
Arid ears. That's just observational.
So don't lecture me about my thoughts about randomiser, which I do happen to love.
Get on with it.
All I'm trying to say is, it's time for the randomiser.
All right, fine. Thank God.
Anton Phillips, hello. What a perfect person to come and press the button on the old randomiser for us today.
Alrighty.
Where would you like to stick your little finger today?
That one.
That button right there, yes. We have several buttons on here now. And now as it makes its selection, which series are you hoping to come up on the randomiser today?
Space 1999?
Space 1999 would be a... Well, now look at that. Look at that. You've got the magic touch there. I think you are the first guest who's pressed the button on this who's actually produced an episode from their own show. Yep. It's an episode of Space 1999. As we've said, this is Alpha Child.
Ah, that's
so, yes, indeed, that one. So, thank you very much. Would you mind coming back next week to do it again?
Of course.
Brilliant. See you then. Thank you very much. So we now welcome back to the randomiser Space 1999. First season, it feels like an eternity since we were last here, and we open with a nice happy scene of the first baby born on Alpha.
11 ounces, dark hair, blue eyes. He's beautiful.
Aww. And of course he's got a full head of hair, as all TV babies have to do. And I do like the reactions of the various characters here. The men all shaking each other's hands as if it's somehow something relating to them, and Sandra getting her little moment of
I'm happy.
emotions that probably even she can't understand, so Koenig isn't even going to try.
Are there any complications?
None whatsoever.
No, wait until after the opening titles for the complications. I also like how Barbara Bain, A, looks really tired, but B, looks really happy, as she would do in this situation. Aww. And that extra who just left, the nurse, is... I didn't realise until the Space 1999 Vault came out, that's Andrea Allen, who was an extra in UFO. I don't think she was in many episodes of this, but it is quite obviously her. And Sid Heyman as the mother, Sue Crawford. And there's little Jackie. Ah, nothing bad is going to happen to him. Cue ominous light from space. But this is an episode I have mixed feelings about. But I do like the horror element in the first half, particularly this pre-titles. The sudden metamorphosis happens off screen. You just hear the beeping, and then 5-year-old boy clawing at the glass. Oh, I'm Anton Phillips. I'm Dr. Matthias. So we are now back from the opening titles. And actually, I was sitting here thinking, how amazing is this now that A, we are on video, I hope you're all enjoying it, but B, that we can have people who are involved with the productions come in and press the button on the randomiser. It is quite something after 250 weeks to have actual people from the shows pressing the button. It's amazing. And of course, this is a Space 1999 episode selected by Space 1999's own Anton Phillips. What could be more appropriate? Anywho, with poor old Sue under sedation, we now have to deal with little Jackie.
Well.
And everyone has a varying degree of reactions here.
Hello, young man.
What I like is, considering how this later goes, that Koenig is the most open to it, whereas Helena is obviously in a state of extreme shock. Koenig is quite clearly stunned as well, but he is like, okay, this is still a person. Something strange has happened to him. He's still one of my people. Let's see if we can help him a bit.
He's got to be 5 years old.
I don't know. This whole thing is totally beyond normal medical experience.
And I believe the name of the young Jackie here is played by a young actor named, I think, Wayne Brooks. I apologise if I've got that wrong, but I think he gives an incredibly sinister performance throughout this episode, and that's a lot to ask of a child actor, but he does very well.
Psychological problems, medical problems, things we could deal with, but this...
And I also love the sense that you get with this episode that this is a community, and a community that has been sort of looking forward to this day, collectively and individually, as Helena said there.
That could have something to do with it.
It's his father's fault. But of course, his father, I believe, is deceased, as shall we say, a pre-stardom Rula Lenska is here to tell us.
I know. He spent all of his working hours in here.
But the place was torn apart when he died.
I think she actually doesn't even get credit for this scene. I also love how this is obviously the nuclear generating area set from Force of Life, which is an enormous set, looks great. And, having built it for that episode, they now have no reason in subsequent episodes to use it. So now it's back for this episode. And it's crawling with extras in a way that it wasn't in previous episodes.
You mean we cannot ever expect to have normal children?
This is another lovely scene as well. And again, this is a fine exhibit to anyone who criticised the show for wooden performances and characters. It's lovely to see these 5 regulars all have their own view on what's happened. And I like as well that Suzanne Roquette's there. Even though she has no dialogue, I like that she is considered regular enough to be part of this scene. And even with no dialogue, she's doing a great job in the background there as well.
Yeah. Well, I have to do something.
And I also, when I first saw this, I assumed that Jack Crawford must have been someone who died pre-Breakaway. You don't ever get an explanation of who he was, other than that he died 7 months ago, and that his wife was, obviously pregnant with Jackie at that time.
So responsive.
I suppose, it doesn't really need to have an explanation of when he died, because, people drop dead left, right and centre in this show. I also like there, it always makes me smile, that prop they've given Jackie to play with is, that's a surgical laser. Why are 2 trained, competent doctors giving children a surgical laser?
First concern is how we're going to look after him.
Second concern is, why are we having this conversation on the nuclear generator area set?
I think we've got to give him the best chance we can.
Again, it is just, we've got this set, got to make use of it. And I think they made use of elements of it in later episodes, even into the 2nd season, I think. Again, Rula Lenska milling around as an extra in the background there. Yeah. I like that as well, that it's just, at first some of the Alphans are prepared to consider this is just one of those space things.
No new facts, no new answers. It seems.
And there he is. And I also, again, going to all the extras here, let's see, I'm trying to pick out names. Oh, Sarah Bullen there, Loftus Burton, is that Chai Lee, or is that someone I've invented? I love how everyone is instantly uneasy except Alan, who's like,
and what's your name?
You're my new friend.
Oh, Jackie, huh?
And it's in scenes like this where you think back to what you've heard about the origins of, the beginnings of the series and Nick Tate's involvement or possible lack of involvement with it. And you just think, this show without Nick Tate would be a very sad, empty place. I mean, they would have still done enormous work. Maybe they would have found someone who approached the same level of just charm and class, but Nick Tate just brings so much humanity to this show. And I think it's an energy that a lot of the other actors kind of pick up on. I like that reaction as well. And of course, it's Alan's acceptance of the kid that kind of wings everyone else over. I love that. And also something I love is, I think it begins with this scene, is that Jackie begins to take against Koenig. Yeah. And you can almost see the smile of a villain there. Ooh. Stock footage of Brian Johnson explosions it is then. Yeah, I like how with this scene Jackie begins to take against Koenig, who was the first person to welcome him.
Want to see a pretty picture, Jackie? Watch.
Wow. Is that the best you can do? Okay, I don't know if the kid was directed to yawn there, or if that's just a happy accident, but that was class. Yes. There you go. Let him play with the buttons on the commander's desk. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I mean, especially considering that none of them are marked. Yes, there's a lot of them there. Yes, just some wonderful. This is a very sinister child. I don't know if anyone knows what became of him after this show. I hope he lived a long and happy life. I don't know if he did any other acting work, but he's a force to be reckoned with in this episode, which is quite surprising. Maybe if I'd found some prettier pictures for him to look at. Oh, there's the space glowy thing. And our first appearance in this episode of Barry Morse. I think this was filmed when... Well, no, this wouldn't have been filmed when Barry was away on holiday, because Barry is clearly here on the screen. But I think the fact that Barry only appears in 2 episodes points to him having had some vacation time during the shooting of this episode.
Very good. Top of the class.
Again, another actor who brings great humanity to this show. But what I find surprising is, considering how many people say, oh, you really miss Barry Morse through the second series, and I miss him certainly, I'm surprised how little you miss him in this episode. After this scene, I think he's only in one more. It's a very brief shot.
You've got the most lovely flower that you've made all by yourself.
This is The Joy of Drawing with Victor Bergman. And yeah, this is recycled Secret Service music.
His weight feels good. 38 pounds. He's making normal progress now.
Finding out all about her? Your father knew everything there was to know about this powerhouse.
I also like the lighting on the child's face there as well.
Oh, he looks bright enough. I just keep trying to invent tests to find out how intelligent he really is.
I'm going to have to check the end credits to see if Rula Lenska is credited. She's had a lot of dialogue for someone that I don't think gets a mention on the end titles. But it's a very nice little montage of Jackie learning about Alpha and its people, and simultaneously learning about that flashing red light there. And again, the lighting over the eyes is very sinister. Well, she's nearly dead.
She refuses to recover from a state of shock. She's totally rejected the job.
Well, I suppose that's an understandable reaction.
Especially as we've kept her drugged since he was born.
She won't even see him. I have a feeling that if she could see what a comparatively normal life he's leading.
It's the manner of his growth that's so disturbing, Helena. I must admit, I can't accept him either.
It's the beginnings of a lovely story here. I'm sure other sci-fi shows must have done something similar to this. This feels very Twilight Zone, of a little boy suddenly, a baby suddenly growing up into a little boy.
Oh, sure. You've done it already. Oh, that's very... Would you like to draw some more? Yeah? All right, off you go.
Also an interesting attribute to the character that the Alphans believe him to be deaf, and I think evidence sort of backs that out, but it doesn't last. So I'm not sure why it's there to begin with. Aww. Also, the miniature commander uniform is quite sweet. Any young Space 1999 fans out there, did you ever have one of these as a kid? I don't think they were manufactured, but I'm sure you had a an auntie who would have made you one.
We're certainly making good progress. Oh, yes. He's bright enough, all right.
Yes, in my experience, once toddlers get to the knows how to open doors phases, there's no stopping them.
Is he, Victor? I think all our inquiring minds have become just a little charmed with young Jackie. You mean he's still under observation? He's gotta be.
Oh.
Jackie? Can I see your drawing? He says that you're not as willing to be charmed as the rest of us now.
Oh.
Yes, Paul?
That was an unusual comlock noise there. I don't recognise that from any other episode. I mean, I do have a comlock right here. This doesn't make any noise at all. It's a gorgeous prop, though. More reused... Oh, I don't know if that's Secret Service or Joe 90 music. That's Secret Service music, yeah. Oh no, there's a green glowy thing. We've seen enough of those to know that that's bad news. And behind it, oh, evil green spaceship.
Where did that come from? It's heading to the North Quadrant. Confirmed.
Who said that? Was that meant to be Sandra or Tanya? It didn't sound like either of them. So meanwhile, Jackie's drawing is revealed as a drawing of the spaceship that is approaching Alpha. Oh, this kid is a master in the sinister close-up. I don't know if he had, like, tutoring. Oh. Well, we may as well take a look out the window at it. Oh. So while everyone is distracted, here comes Jackie. Could be an alternate title for this episode, really. Here comes Jackie. And another sinister close-up as we're going to the advert break. Yeah, definitely Secret Service music. Again, that there is as well. I think this is Last Train to Buffalo's Halt. I go up there in my Eagle, fly it around and look classy as heck.
I'll see you later. Hey, what's up? I'll be back.
Also very unusual to see this part of the main mission set, and I would have to assume that that was standing all the time that the set was. You see people coming in, from the perspective of being in main mission. You don't really see beyond that wall.
Open all channels for any response from them. Anything.
Alpha, any sign of activity?
Nothing, Commander. Set the green light.
Oh.
No movement.
Well, yeah, very small green light.
You hang in there with them and report the first sign of life.
Alright. Moving in a little closer.
Alan's got his trusty co-pilot with him. This is Pete Johnson, I think. Played by... I think the actor's name is James Fagan. Or Fagan, possibly. But he's, again, I think an actor who is in 3 or 4 episodes. He always acquits himself really well. I kind of wish he'd got a bit more to do.
Composition unknown. It's 100 meters in diameter, 40 meters high, yet it has very low density.
It's room for an army inside.
The computer finds some form of life indicated, but not human. Without previous experience, computers cannot identify it.
Ah, yes. We'll discover later that the ship is populated by, I believe, disembodied spirits.
They're waiting for the other side to make the first move.
So I guess they're not going to be in any position to attack Alpha, even if they wanted
Why don't
to.
they say so?
Alan's very close, Commander. I think we should make the first move.
Have them lined up, Commander. The laser charge is at maximum rate.
You want me to give him the good old Aussie hello? But of course, we get the feeling that Jackie is manipulating events. And people, possibly.
Alan, return to base.
Huh? Lots of quick reaction shots there.
Why?
Why didn't you let me blow up the thing I wanted to blow up?
They could have blasted you right out of that sky. But they didn't.
Maybe they've got just what they want by keeping quiet. But Commander, we're wide open.
All right, let's put ourselves on their shoes.
Again, this sort of harkens back/forward to War Games, where we have a very similar situation, and Koenig ultimately chooses the fire first and deal with the consequences later approach, which is kind of at odds to what he does here, and Paul and Alan are the ones who want to blast it.
After all, we're all afraid of the unknown.
Yeah, that's not a philosophy that the character would consistently pursue throughout the series, particularly into the second season.
You see, I don't know why he is like he is. I can't explain it, nor do I understand it. But I'm not about to shoot him.
Ah, you're a good egg. I think as well, maybe the child has possibly some slight makeup on. He looks quite pale. Oh, that's a creepy shot.
I saw him smile, and it sent a shiver up my spine. So knowing, almost as if he were mocking his mother's death.
Where is he now?
She's not dead yet, but she's nearly there.
He's near somewhere.
Somewhere?
Well, it's a big base. There's lots of pretty things to look at.
Jackie Crawford, and don't let him out of your
Lots
sight.
of drawing and colouring to do.
Helena,
I also love that he gives Paul the order to do that. You know. There's no one else on the base who maybe has a bit less to do than Paul.
Too bright. There's something else. Just a feeling I have, something I can't explain. But I trusted. I think he's fooled all of us.
Commander, 3 more spaceships approaching Alphans.
I think there's a connection. It's just a hunch. Helena?
But I'm the star of the series, and my hunches are always right, damn it. Yeah, I like that the threat this episode comes essentially from one of their own. Even though Jackie hasn't been there for very long, everyone is clearly so prepared to accept him. Even when he does weird things like that. Again, there's just the staring now.
I want you to lead 3 Eagles and intercept those ships before they reach Alpha. Shoot? No, just let them know we're ready for them.
Can I shoot something, Commander? I've not shot anything this week. Oh dear.
It's an attack. Alan, stop them.
Save us, Alan, save us. But of course, Jackie is... paralysed him, essentially? Yes, delayed him, certainly. And of course, only Koenig can see it. Because Koenig is just so damn hard. Somebody poke him with a stick. Come on, let's get the guy moving. Now, there's a video on YouTube, I think. I suspect it's probably being taken down, of... there was an old TV series, was it called Big John, Little John? And someone took the opening titles of that, the opening song, I should say, and set it to footage of Big John Koenig, Little John Koenig. I have no familiarity with the show whatsoever, so I may have got that wrong. If it's still around, it's quite fun, but... yeah, Jackie is now no more. He's gone bye-byes. Because Koenig looked at him funny. Oh, poor little guy in his little commander's uniform. Yeah, that's unfortunately, I think, the last we see of the little kid.
Cameras operating again, sir.
Yeah, quite a shame. Because he's you know, the Anderson shows didn't employ too many child actors, but he was, I would say, probably one of the better ones.
Fire at will. Now you're talking.
Hey, halfway through the episode he gets to shoot something.
Up with manual override.
Manual override? They're moving very fast.
I said manual override.
There's a cover version of the Space 1999 theme produced by a group or an artist called Ambassadors of Om. And it's, as cover versions go, it's quite interesting because not only do they sample a very brief bit of the opening titles, the theme tune, they then recite lines of dialogue from various episodes, and that exchange there between Alan and Pete was one of them. Manual override, they're moving very fast. I wouldn't have said that was a particularly memorable exchange from the series. I think the Ambassadors of Om version is probably on YouTube somewhere. It's quite a catchy version of the theme, if just strange, for the fact that the people involved recorded themselves reenacting lines from the show. And not even iconic lines, just random lines. Anywho, I've waffled all over. Well, Koenig is face-palmed because Alan's attack did not go well. Luckily, the aliens neutralised the Eagles rather than destroyed them. Very gently set them down on the lunar surface. Meanwhile, Jackie is making all the medical monitors go screwy again.
Cell growth has accelerated far beyond the capacity of our instruments to measure.
Still increasing?
Yes.
What can we expect this time?
Oh.
How about
A 6-year-old, an 8-year-old.
It's got to be more than a coincidence. The arrival of those spaceships and all this.
You say Jackie?
Look, you've got to stop calling that Jackie. But rather some alien power amongst us. Sooner or later we may have to destroy.
Ooh. It's a big...
John, it's a human being.
Yeah, it's a big issue for the episode to wrestle with. And luckily, they don't have to explore that within this story. But
we're past waiting to see what'll happen.
There must be other similar stories. I don't know, would Village of the Damned be one of those? I've not actually seen it or experienced it, so I could be wrong, but the idea of a community having to turn on and destroy its own children because they fall into an alien force it's irresistible as a sci-fi horror story idea, which of course makes it perfect for 1999.
How do you think they'll respond if we kill them?
But it's a very heavy idea for a mainstream television series to play
I agree
with.
with Dr. Russell. At the moment, our hands are tied.
So I'm back to pacing again. It's all I can do.
Get an eagle up off the pad. We couldn't be sure we'd hit them anyway. What happened out there, Alan? Well,
I selected onboard ranging combined with manual
the
override.
simple fact is you weren't functioning
It didn't
properly.
work.
As a matter of fact, you were virtually incompetent.
Oh.
Not incompetent. No, you were out there.
I like as well that he sort of was fighting words. Come on.
What are you trying to say to me, Commander? Alan, I think you were gotten to somehow. By Jackie Crawford.
Oh dear.
Jackie Crawford. That's right. All this talk isn't going to help us any. But I do have an idea which might work. If the activity on the alien ship stops them, then we might just have a chance. Like what? Well, it's quite primitive. But my idea is to send 4 men on the surface, on foot, each carrying handheld armor-piercing lasers. They position themselves, one under each of the alien ships. They coordinate and fire simultaneously.
One of the things I love about 1999 is the idea of contemporary man going out into the universe that they're not ready for and encountering life forms that are far beyond them. You know, even with this episode, well, not so much this one, but others, humanoid life. You know, it looks like us, it's advanced far beyond us. I just love sometimes how, with this show, the plan has to be as primitive as Koenig says. They're very primitive. Just take a big gun and go out there and fire at the ships. It's not even going to scratch these ships. But let's have a go anyway. Let's have a go. It's also, yeah, I believe that is the only time you see Kano in a spacesuit. A lot of work getting Clifton Jones into the spacesuit for one scene. Because you never really see any of the actors' faces. You could have just got one actor and changed the name on the helmet. But Jackie's cell growth has ceased. What have we got under the blanket this time? Could be anything. Could be something really scary and sinister. Or it could be a very good actor with a questionable hairdo and an even more questionable costume. This is the point, and I said earlier I have mixed feelings about this episode. Up until this point, I feel it's been really effective. But with the introduction of the adult Jackie here, or Jarak as we'll come to know him, I feel we lose something. I don't know what it is. I think the costume does not help anything. Obviously, it's no fault of Julian Glover because he's just always a legend. But, you know, as cool as he is, now that we have him strutting about again in tinfoil underpants, making threats, the level of horror is reduced significantly. And obviously you can't sustain that for an entire episode, have the young Jackie all the way through and never really know what happened.
There are many things we'd like to know also.
But it is just something, in that moment, my enjoyment of the episode takes a dip. I don't know. And again, it is a nice idea of the concept of an alien race that can take possession of human bodies, but only at the moments of birth and death. It's a very clever, very sinister one. Now, this music, I always skip this when listening to it on the soundtrack album, because it goes on for quite a while, and it is rather unpleasant to listen to.
You will tell me, Dr. Russell.
Oh, that, I don't know, honking noise, coupled with the eerie whistling. Yes. And again, we have some great lighting here. Poor old Dr. Matthias, there we go. This is what we covered in Anton's interview, or will cover, I should say, about Dr. Matthias's role in the series as a trouble magnet. But I always loved with this show, something about this shade of blue is just great for horror stuff. Whether it is Breakaway or Force of Life or Troubled Spirit, just something about the medical centre, the blue light, Helena's often there alone, and the sinister whatever is lurking nearby. It's always just gorgeous. And I don't think I can't recall one instance of sinister blue light in series 2. Possibly someone out there can correct me, but dear. I do like the laser rifle prop as well. So, Helena fainted. Matthias has woken her up. They're still in there with Julian Glover. And he's still dressed just as silly as he was before she passed out.
Now you will stop them.
I think as well it's the medallion.
But you will.
Oh, but he has got a nice line in Creepy Stairs, much like the kid.
No.
Oh no. And now that he's older, Jackie can multitask. He can work Helena and strangle Matthias. Poor old Matthias. This episode's other alternate title might as well be Dr. Matthias's no good, quite awful, really rubbish kind of day. Because he's suffocated. I don't think he's punched. But he's put through the ringer quite a bit with this story.
You were right about Jackie.
I was right. My theory has been vindicated. Hooray for me. Ah, yes. Now, again, this starts off as quite a horrific moment as poor old Sue Crawford, who is herself having a no good, quite awful, fairly rubbish several weeks by this point, wakes up and sees the adult form of what was her son, and he begins staring her to death. I also wonder if it might have been fun to in some way represent Jack's Crawford, the died off-screen Jack Crawford, as Julian Glover, and then when she wakes up and sees him in front of her, the shock is even more pronounced. Whereas here,
You've killed her.
Jarek has just stared her to death. But now he's got the green light shining into her eyes. I think what I find silliest about this is the costume change and the fact that Sid Heyman is now about to look considerably more glammed up than she did a moment ago. I don't know, I think something might be more... It might be more horrific if they just let her look rough and done in and haggard. Fine for the aliens to take possession of her body at the point of death, but very nice of them to do her hair and her lips and give her new clothes. And, yes, probably the ickiest moment in the whole of Space 1999 here. Yes, mother kissing her son on the lips. Obviously, they're not, but they kind of are, and it's just, ugh. That's always icked me out, and I know I'm not alone in that. So, Koenig has rounded up some of his faithful security guards. We've got the entrance to Medical Center covered from both ends. Yes. Oh, and that I would assume is a rare instance of you actually being able to hear the rollers of a door on the set. Because normally, I think, if someone walks through the door, you would hear that boom, sort of hum as the door opens and closes. You rarely hear that wooden rolling sound, which is interesting.
Tell everybody to put down their weapons, or I'll kill Alan.
What did I do? Well, I can't lead Alpha without Alan. I can lose anybody else, but not Alan. Yeah, so this, oh dear. Now we see the costumes in their full glory. And Koenig is just like, he's as stunned as I am by all this.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. You are now released.
I don't think anyone would have questioned if the revived Jarek and, what's her name? Oh, he said it and I've forgotten. I don't think anyone would question if they were still walking around in their old clothes. Admittedly, Jackie's mini commander uniform would have had to stretch. Sue Crawford. Oh no, that's the character's former name. I can't remember what her present name is.
And you are commander of Moon Base Alpha.
So Jarek is still struggling with his words there. Now,
like you, we are involuntary travelers through
he's mastered public speaking.
120 souls in all.
And, when you cast Julian Glover, who's got a wonderful speaking voice, you want to hear him talk, and talk at length.
In which to conceal our identity.
He also gets a very nice line here.
I like the intuitive quality.
A slightly silly line that I'm surprised doesn't get more note.
I like the difference.
Let's see if we've got it here.
But on our planet, we faced extermination because we were different.
Walking around bare-chested with our medallions.
We are running away.
And I like, despite the fact that I've said I had issues with these characters, I like that they don't immediately come in as mwahaha, moustache-twirling villains. Admittedly, they're not far off, but...
You can't stay here. We can't sustain more people. Our environment here on Alpha is so precariously balanced, we can barely support ourselves.
Commander, there will be no population increase on Alpha. We shall simply take over your bodies and make them our own.
That's another line that they quoted in the Ambassadors of Om cover version.
The birth of Jackie Crawford gave me my chance.
It's a lovely idea.
You killed Sue Crawford. Dr. Russell.
Rena, that's her
There will be no
name.
more births on Alpha. But sadly, there will be many more deaths.
Oh, here it is.
I was very happy with my birth. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do much in an
I love
incubator.
that line. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an inherently silly line or if it's just the way Julian Glover delivers it. I was very happy with my birth. I rated it 8.3 at least. Oh. Don't get too close.
You need us. I don't know your people, but they need us alive. You want
I also like
we are ready.
the reinforcing of the idea that Alpha's life support system cannot support an infinite number. A, they don't have the space, but B, they just don't have the energy. Despite the fact that they've lost a lot of people by this point. There's that music I don't like again. And it's coming up on a rather interesting moment of horror, because I think Koenig would shoot Jarek to save Alpha, but we have a security guard extra who's about to get involved, and another extra is about to pay the price. Yep, there's a security guard extra jumping off a trampoline, pulling down the commander, and... oh no! It's a very sudden, very violent moment for a character that you've never seen before, the actual frame where he goes up in flames. Poor guy.
Your choice is between a future as one of us, or no future at all.
I would have to assume that guy is not dead because, he isn't instantly reborn as a glammed up, tinfoil wearing personage. I also love the extra standing next to him, which is Mike Stevens. I don't know if I've spoken about Mike Stevens, but he is a master at a look of concern. He's in all these ITC shows. He's in a couple of episodes of UFO, but he's in this first season all over the place. And I just love, it's his trademark look of concern. He's just, and there was a prime example. Someone explodes right next to him, and he's like, love it.
Themselves to those of your dying bodies
oh no.
have been selected.
I like as well that the security guards and Koenig, they aren't succumbing to this as quickly as everyone else is.
Lift off to a safe distance and auto-destruct.
Yes, there's Andrea Allen again.
Of our former life will be lost forever.
And I think we get Barry Morse's brief cameo here.
For your move.
Yeah, there we go. An easy day's filming for Barry Morse, I suspect.
The designated will die.
Also used in Ambassadors of Om. They plunder this episode, in particular, quite heavily. Yes. And we now get a mini Matthias subplot, which is unusual for this show. I don't think it's deliberately written to give him more screen time, just that's the way it works out. Interesting there as well, you can see Anton's makeup is rubbed off on the carpet. I don't know if that was always visible on the DVDs, but it's certainly visible now on Blu-ray. So the 4 alien ships are now 3. Because another alien ship has turned up on the scene. We recognise that. I think that was later reused as the alien bomber in War Games. But regardless... oh no! They've found us. Time to make a run for it. And this is a sequence coming up here that rewards, if you're paying attention to extras, you will notice there's a scene coming up where Jarek and Rena shoot a group of Alphans in a corridor. They all fall down. Shoot the Alphans, all fall down. And they run through the bodies. And Julian Glover, he's trying his best, but his foot treads on the hand of one of the female extras. And to her credit, I don't know her name, she maybe flinches just a little, but they don't call cut, they leave it in. This is it. And it's she's on the left, I think it's the yellow sleeve lady. There we go. Oh, it might have been the other lady. Makes me wince every time. And it's one of those things where you don't notice it initially. It's probably how it's got through. But once you notice it, you'll never not notice it. So, our small squad of Koenig, Carter, Helena and security guys are on the trail of Jarek and Rena. For some reason, Paul felt it necessary to go along as well, and He's looking after the wounded, which is nice of him. And yeah, they've taken over Medical Centre. Will this lady be able to stop them? No. Will Andrea Allen be able to stop them? No.
Don't be foolish, Doctor.
And Dr. Mathias shouldn't even try.
Computer. Medical center doors are to remain locked.
Now, having had trouble speaking initially, Jarek can now do impressions.
And now, Dr. Mathias, I hope you will help us to persuade
this is an Edward Di Lorenzo script, and I find his...
One life for 300?
That's a nice moment for the character. I find his episodes uneven, to say the least. This, I think, is definitely the strongest. It's just a shame that we have this really good first half, and then, like a light switch being thrown, it gets a bit too silly. Not unenjoyably so.
We wish to negotiate.
And it doesn't really, rival any of the sillier moments from Series 2. Somehow I know that, despite not being in there.
Requests. We are no longer in a position to make demands.
I also like that as well. Going back to what I said about them not being moustache-twirling villains, they accept the reality of their situation. And they don't bargain from strength, they just have to bargain for their lives.
The combination of Alphan bodies and the minds of my people would have been a splendid one.
Again, another lovely line that it's just the way Julian Glover delivers it. He's got such a wonderful speaking voice.
You would have become part of us.
But we have failed.
Aww.
The rest of my people have been discovered and destroyed.
Were the rest of your people as glamorous as your lady friend there?
That we should be allowed to become part of you.
And I've often wondered over the years, what if they were? What if they were able to remain on Alpha? Obviously they can't, we can't add 2 new characters to the mix. But, yeah, it would have been nice. Interesting angle to have 2, not only aliens on the base, but slightly, not only nefarious ones, but ones that wear the faces of two dead Alphans.
Appealing for mercy.
Oh. Well, mercy. Anybody know what that word mercy means? Not sure I do. I also like with Landau, when he's got a group of extras around him, like in that situation, he'll make eye contact with all of them. It's not just Bane and Tate he was looking at there. He was looking at Quentin Pierre and Tony Allen and the other extras. Yeah, it's the big spaceship that blew up all the other not quite as big spaceships. Pulsating green light. Oh, that's what did for Dr. Breck that time.
Destroy us! They will destroy the whole of Alpha!
Oh no.
Unless what?
What can we give them? Do they want to meet Ruler Lenska? No. More Secret Service music.
Are you going to let Alpha be destroyed because of you?
Bom, 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 bom. Yeah, that's definitely Last Train to Buffalo's Hold. Which I suppose it makes sense for this show to plunder a lot of Secret Service music if it wasn't that widely seen. So, the aliens on the alien spaceship are bathing Jarek and Rena in a green light, and they seem to have died. And with that complete, off goes the alien spaceship. Probably to be slightly redressed for its appearance in War Games. I don't know, maybe it was left unchanged.
Commander, our thinking has stopped. The spaceship is leaving. It is going away.
It is departing. It is no longer here. And we're about to get a shot of Mathias that I find quite interesting. It's not a sort of, yes, I'm all right, Commander, I looked after everybody, I saved the day. Instead, what you get is something far more human. And I think it's an understated moment of the series, considering this is an ordinary man from an ordinary world who wasn't trained for anything like this. Yeah, why wouldn't he be in floods of tears after one of the worst days of his life? Considering he has a lot of bad days on Elf, right? I really like that moment. It's so small, it's so understated. And speaking of moments that are impossible to dislike, Sue is alive again, so is little Jackie Crawford. They're both back to their previous selves.
Do you think they gave themselves up?
It's a nice thought, Helena. I don't think they had any choice.
Well, we end the episode how we started it, with a shot of little baby Jackie Crawford. Oh, he's so sweet. Well, there we go. That was Alpha Child. And as I said, that's an episode Rulelenska doesn't get a credit. As I said, that's an episode that I really enjoy up to the midpoint. And then once Julian Glover comes on the scene, my enthusiasm for it just kind of falls away a bit. Through no fault of him, it's just a slightly goofy execution for the villains. So, yeah, good first half, middling second half. Overall, still a pretty good episode.
Oh, imagine that. How random.
I can't believe it.
Space 1999.
It's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it?
And coincidences do exist.
That
they
is
do
true.
happen. I mean, as Stephen Fry once said, wouldn't it be weird if there were never any coincidences?
Oh,
that would be weird, wouldn't it?
That's a great quote.
Exactly. Of course there are coincidences.
Yeah.
And there was one, Space 1999, for Breakaway Day, and Anton Phillips is
perfectly timed.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Lovely stuff.
So let's see what he pulls out of the randomizer. Well, he doesn't sort of pull it out, does he? He just watches. He's very passive. Let's see what he watches in the randomizer.
He's passive in his watching, but amazing in his analysis.
Well, he's not passive in his watching because he comments on what he's watching.
Active in his watching,
yes.
But passive in his
sitting.
Yeah,
it's quite a passive thing to do. I want to see him running around.
Yes,
maybe doing some
on a treadmill.
Yes, as he watches an episode.
Okay, future randomizer there.
I like it.
Good.
Great idea. I'm sure he'll be thrilled. Anyway, more randomizer next week. More emails from our Podsterons next week. Second part of the interview with Anton Phillips next week. More Fab Facts next week. More news next week.
Yep. Anything else next week?
I think that's about it, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit wired. Had too much coffee. I think we better call it a day.
Okay. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's get started.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
I'm sorry about that. Do you get to the point by the end of a podcast where it all just gets a bit weird and it kind of doesn't feel real somehow?
Yes. Yeah, it's like an out-of-body experience. Out-of-poddy experience?
Out-of-poddy experience.
Is that good? Do you like that?
Do you think our listeners have the same thing when they're listening? Do they
go a bit mad and start saying weird things and doing weird stuff?
So mad that they listen again next week.
That would be it next week. So if you have done something this week or a previous week, do email us podcast@gerryanderson.com, perhaps with the subject line out of poddy experience.
And we'll see you next week. That was an Anderson Entertainment production.
I didn't get to fire the gun. I forgot about that.